Welcome to Lockdown With. Our guest today is Ellie. She is a content marketer based in Canberra, Australia. Just before the pandemic, Ellie had a gut feeling that she should quit her day job, move houses and cities, and start her own business specialising in content marketing. During this podcast, Ellie shares with us what led to that decision, what it was like to start her business, and how her experience of the pandemic would have been wholly different if she hadn't listened to that gut feeling. I'm Rebecca, and welcome to Lockdown With. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hello from London.
Yeah, bit different to over here in Australia. It's super hot and yes, summer vibes over here.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, Brits love a weather chat, and I think we'd love to know what the weather was like there.
Yeah, well, it's hot. It hasn't actually been a hot summer, as hot summers go. But the last kind of week or so, it has been hot. It's been up in the 30s, so it's been hot.
Well,
staying inside.
Well, I don't actually blame you. To give you an idea of what's been happening here, we've been in -2, -3, but no snow. No snow.
Just like the miserable, like sticky kind of cold.
It's probably not even sticky, it's just icy, freezing, you breathe in and it hurts kind of thing.
Yeah, which I mean, it does get cold here. I'm in Canberra, which is kind of a couple of hours south of Sydney, and it does get cold down here, but it would rarely get below 0 down here. So, and it will snow, but not proper snow, just, a little sprinkle and everyone kind of runs outside and it's all fun, but not actual proper snow here.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like London, but I think we're going to be a little bit jealous of how nice and hot it sounds there, and you're in your kind of like tank top or whatever. I'm so jealous. I'm here like shivering away under a blanket. You can't see I've got a blanket down here.
Yeah, but I'm sweating, like I'm uncomfortably hot, and we don't have really good aircon here, so yeah, so I wouldn't mind a little bit of a like snuggly winter vibe.
Go stand in the fridge.
Okay.
But I'm interested because you said you're in Canberra, but I kind of wanted you to kind of transport us to where you are. Like I haven't seen your house, I don't know what it looks like, but I have seen your Instagram pictures of like where you're living. Can you tell us like what kind of vibe it is where you are?
So we moved to Canberra probably 6 or 8 months ago, so just before the lockdown started. So I don't know a huge amount about the intricacies of the city, but it's a small city as cities go in Australia. So, and they call it the bush city, so like the forest city. Because it was designed with so many different nature spaces in mind, and each kind of locality has its own ridge that you can go hiking up on, or that kind of, or you can drive half an hour and you'll be in the mountains. So it's kind of an outdoorsy city, which is one of the reasons we moved here. So it's pretty quiet, lazy old life, and we've got. We moved so that we could kind of have a bigger backyard and we could have a dog and things like that. So we've got our veggie garden out the back, and we got a puppy probably 4 or 5 months ago.
What's his name? Is it Bronte?
She's a girl, and we called her Bronson, which is a boy's name.
Okay.
So I can see why you'd be confused.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so we moved out of the big city of Sydney, so that we could have, just like a more quieter kind of country style life, but still be within a city that we could work find jobs if we needed to, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a nice balance of a city.
So where you are in Canberra, are you based kind of in the centre of kind of town, or are you kind of more on the outskirts?
We're about 10 or 15 minutes drive from the centre of the city, which sounds close, but it's actually pretty far out, because it's one of those cities that you can just, you like 10 minutes drive in any direction. Anything you need, it'll be within 10 minutes. So yeah, it's pretty far from this, pretty far, from the centre of the city.
Okay. And I mean, so that's really nice. I love the fact you've got a veggie garden and you're kind of like around countryside if you need to be. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that move. I think that's a really good move. I love watching your Instagram stories of your kind of lifestyle. I feel it's really full of energy. That's what I really like.
Yeah, it's one of those cities where you can just jump in the car and just be, you know, you could drive 2 or 3 hours and you could either be at the coast or up in the mountains skiing, or if you drive inland, you can be pretty much in like desert-ish country. So, and then 2 hours south and you're in Sydney, which is the, biggest city in the country. So it's a really good location. We love it.
That's really good. I really enjoy that. I don't hear many people speaking about Canberra as much as you hear about the kind of Melbourne and Sydney and Perth and Adelaide and stuff. So yeah, it's maybe a hidden gem that people should explore a little bit more maybe. I really wanted to speak to you about your experience of, obviously because this is lockdown with, and I mean the UK is now in their third lockdown, so this is kind of keeping me occupied while we literally cannot leave the house. But I think everyone will be interested about how COVID and lockdowns were in Australia. So can you tell us like how you first found out about COVID? How did you hear about it? Where were you?
We had just moved here, so we were still kind of unpacking boxes and that kind of stuff. But we were kind of in a bit of a happy, floaty kind of vibe of, yes, we're out of the city, and it was beautiful kind of weather, and I had just quit my job in Sydney as well, so I wasn't working or anything like that. So I had a lot of free time and space, and I just launched a new business. So, or I just started to kind of tell a few people, and hadn't done a kind of like hard launch, just a soft little like telling a few little people. But so I was kind of had a few little clients and a little bit of work happening here and there. But so I heard about it when all of that was happening, when the business was just new, and so we didn't have any kind of a lot of the people had jobs and stuff that they had to start working remotely and that kind of thing. But for us, not a huge amount changed.
So would you have found out back in March time?
Yeah. I mean, when did you guys find out about it?
Well, I mean,
wasn't it the same?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was in China. So
oh,
I
you
found
were
out
in China.
in January. I was the one that came home and I was like, guys, it's going to be a lockdown, guys, quick. And everyone was like, you're being silly. There is going to be no such thing. China can't deal with it. And I was just like, okay, whatever. I had 3 months of kind of trying to enjoy myself before lockdown in London. But yeah, pretty much Europe. And I think a lot of the world found out in like March. That's when they started taking it quite seriously.
Yeah, I can't really remember. I think there was just an announcement there was an announcement that there was a limit of events, 500 people or something like that. And it was a few months after everything was happening in China. And I think overnight people kind of started panicking a little bit, and there was panic buying and toilet paper, shopping and that kind of stuff. And that was when I think I got a few calls from clients that were a little bit panicked about what it was going to mean for their businesses and their outdoor adventure businesses, which is the industry that I work in. So I had a few clients kind of cancel overnight when we found out about that.
It's crazy. I also find it really interesting that although you're on the other side of the world, people still panic bought toilet roll?
Yeah.
Why? Why is this a thing?
Yeah, people were buying big like crates of it, like
Yeah.
100 toilet rolls and things. So yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
We had a big supply already, so we were all good.
In Australia, what do you think the reaction was to COVID? Do you what was the vibe like?
I'm trying to think back. Like, I can't really remember. I think I switched off a bit from it, but I think there was definitely a panic at the beginning, in the sense that no one really knew like what it was going to mean for them. And the initial lockdown, I think, was countrywide. So from memory, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was kind of locked. It was speaking holistically, and the prime minister was the one doing the announcements and stuff. So it was more of a collective kind of, we're all in this together, and it was a hard lockdown. So yeah, I think it was just a lot of uncertainty and fear. But yeah, with hindsight, I guess it wasn't probably as extensive as we thought, which might have been because of the management of it, the managing it well. I think it didn't last as long as people would have thought, but that could just be my perspective, because I really wasn't touched by it at all. I had some clients cancel, but I got new clients straight away, and I had some financial support from my family and stuff. So my perspective of it is probably a little bit different to the perspective of people who really, really were, losing their jobs and locked in cities and things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of uncertainty was probably the main vibe at the time.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's speak about your kind of experience of COVID then, because you said you kind of completely could shut off from it. And I think for people in the UK, that will sound like such a strange thing, because we've been affected by this since March, and we had maybe a break during our summer months. So maybe August was okay. We didn't really get much news about it, but every single day we're getting horrific like death totals and case totals. So we've had like 3 million cases. We're at 80,000 deaths. Every day we're getting like 1,000 people die at the moment, which is, I mean, in Australia, you've had like 900 deaths the whole pandemic. So we've had your whole total death count in one day, every single day during these peaks. So we can't really switch off. So, I mean, it's nice to hear a different perspective. So how were you able to switch off? Was it just not as big of a thing?
Well, it wasn't. So when we talk about how many cases there've been in Australia, I think such a tiny proportion of those have been in Canberra, or in the ACT, which is where Canberra is. There's been, I think, maybe one death in Canberra. So it's my perspective is not this perspective of people who are living in Sydney or Melbourne. So I think for me, for us down here, we had that initial lockdown, and kind of had to shut down for that period of time like everybody else. But then it gradually petered out and life was back to normal, I think, pretty quickly for Canberrans. But I mean, if you spoke to someone who's living in Melbourne in an apartment with kids, and they were in a lockdown for months and months and months, and they were having to school their kids from home for such a long period of time, and that was tough. Like not all Australians are able to kind of switch off from it, but yeah, we were, because we were able to a little bit because of that. And I guess as well, because I work remotely for myself, there wasn't any much connection to the business world and that kind of stuff. So for me, yeah, that's how I switched off. But I'm in a fortunate position, and it'd be interesting to speak to other Australians in other regional locations, other country locations, because I think they probably have a similar experience, unless they have some connection to the city. I think one's kind of challenge that people have had is if they have family across state borders. So if they have wanted to go up north to Queensland or cross a state border to see their family, then they've had challenges where they've had to quarantine for long periods of time. And
yeah, because I was going to ask you, where's your family based?
My family is in Sydney. Mm-hmm. Well, my close family, my dad is in 2 hours north, or about an hour north of here, in the country. And then my grandparents are up in the northern beaches, which is where they've just had a cluster, which in the Australian sense is a big thing, but when it's compared to other global numbers, it's not so big.
I know.
But it's still taken like extremely seriously. I think they locked down the northern beaches of Sydney after like 2 people cases had been found or something like that.
I've been following your news and I was just like, that is crazy. Like, they've locked down whole places with hardly any cases and they're like, this is a big thing. I'm like, we have like 30,000 people in hospital.
Yeah. So I think, so I was supposed to have Christmas up there, and then they put a hard border on that section of the city and we had to cancel that, which was, I mean, it is sad. It was sad because my grandparents are getting old. Well, they are old. They're 90 something.
That's quite old.
I mean, they still seem like spring chickens, but they are old. So it was a bit sad, not being able to do that. But when I'm, zooming out on the context of how I've experienced the whole ordeal, I'm extremely fortunate. If that's the only thing that I have to kind of deal with, I'm pretty lucky. But I think, for a lot of people, it's hard to, people are having to deal with sick parents and sick family members and things like that. And I think when it comes to things like that, you can't predict any of that stuff happening. So yeah, there's a lot of challenges there that people have had to face, but I haven't had to do any of that so far, so I've been very lucky.
So during your restrictions in Canberra, were you able to still kind of leave your house and go on your adventures? Because I know you are such an adventurer and you love the outdoors. Were you still able to go on your kind of walks?
So we were allowed to go like within the state. So we could go, for our daily walks, and you could just head up the mountain out there and that kind of stuff.
That mountain, just one in our back garden. I think our favorite mountain is probably like the Shard in London, like the building.
Yeah, so we could go for our like walks around the city and things like that. Right at the beginning of lockdown, you could like, you had to kind of stay inside, and you could just go for like a half-hour walk kind of thing. But there's national parks and stuff that you could quite quickly go and visit, but we haven't really done a huge amount of that because of the puppy that we got. So she's restricted where we've been able to go a little bit, because you have to kind of the first little bit of her life has to be inside before she's vaccinated and stuff. So but I mean, it was so the kind of adventures that I do are generally in another state or in another country, or at least a few hours drive away, and we couldn't do that stuff. So and I mean, I had a few work, I do content kind of partnerships with brands and things, so I had a few jobs that were postponed and just postponed again and again and again because of different border restrictions up north and stuff. So there were a few things that were kind of disrupted, but not in a sense that it was, you know, completely cancelled or anything like that. It's just postponed, I guess.
And I mean, with the kind of adventures, I mean, you are lucky to have mountains and stuff on your doorstep. I mean, if we compare the lockdowns and COVID between the UK and in Australia, well, where you are in Canberra, I mean, in the UK, we were seeing people, if there was any sunshine, literally any sunshine, you'd get about 100 cars that would turn up in a car park at the nearest national park or down by the beach, and you'd see the news and it would just be a full beach or a full mountain. And I don't think people in, maybe especially like London and all of that, I don't think we normally get outside as much as what we have done this year, because that's all we can do. I don't know, did you see anything similar with people kind of flocking to places that were nice?
Not here, because there's just so few people. But I did see my family lives at Bondi Beach, which is the famous beach in Sydney, and they there were pictures of the beach on the news, and it was just absolutely packed, and you're just looking at everyone going, what are you doing? Like, that's so silly. You know, there's all these restrictions and there's all these health warnings and stuff. Why are you doing that? But I guess, like, you can't judge, you know. I think at that point in time when everyone was flocking to Bondi Beach, it was kind of like, I think they'd been in lockdown for a little while, and I don't think they were breaking the rules. The only rules they were breaking was they were too close to each other. But you know, who am I to judge? Like, they just want to get outside and get some sun and sand and stuff. And like, I haven't experienced the lockdown being in the city and really not being able to go outside. I can't imagine that.
I am so pleased for you that you haven't experienced the pandemic, as, I mean, people in the UK and in the big cities and stuff here. And I think I speak to someone about this, I was thinking it's going to be so strange when some type of normality resumes, because people are going to travel again, and then it's going to be a weird mix of people that have experienced this really hard lockdown and either are going to be complete hermits because there's so much social anxiety going on at the moment, or they're going to be going absolutely mad, like wild. And then you've got people like Australia, especially New Zealand, and a lot of other countries where they haven't experienced COVID or lockdowns, and I think that's going to be a really strange tourism dynamic. I just don't know how that's going to be.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's going to change the way that people view traveling, for sure, I think. And just as well, just the idea of so many people going through such intense hardship, but then the other half of the world not going through that period of transformation, like internally. I think that's gonna, there's gonna be some who knows what, but some kind of tension there, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really strange. And I think I've got an interview lined up with someone from New Zealand, and she was just like, it's crazy, because even more so than like in Australia, they just haven't experienced it. They're pretty much out of the woods now completely, and that's going to be it's such a strange thing to even think about. Someone hasn't experienced proper COVID. It's just really strange. But I think what's interesting is that you had this feeling that you should change up your life, you should move house, quit your job, start your own thing, and you moved from Sydney to Canberra, so out of a big city to kind of a smaller city town. I guess it's a city because it's the capital, but I mean, if you didn't listen to that gut instinct, how different would your year have been?
Yeah, it would have been really different. I would have been having a different conversation with you now, I think. We in Sydney, we lived in a tiny little terrace house in a small little in an industrial section of Sydney, and we were packed in there enough when, you know, we were stepping on each other's toes when we lived there before. So I think if we'd added having to be locked down there together, I don't think a relationship would have lasted. No, I mean, it would have. I've had lots of friends who've had real troubles with their relationships being in Sydney lockdown. So I think that, there would have been troubles there. And I also probably would have been still in my full-time job, which I didn't hate, but it wasn't quite right for me. So I would have been fully remote with that. And it's tricky. I can imagine it would have been tricky for lots of organizations, but just thinking of where I worked, it would have been so tricky for them to have to overnight pretty much, have to figure out how to, do it all remotely, because it's a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to technology. The nonprofit world doesn't invest in that kind of technology. So, I think it would have been a bit of a challenge. I think that people would have been really struggling with the communication side of things, and putting on top of that all of everybody's personal and emotional pressures and stresses and psychological, stuff that's happening, and fear of, family members being sick and stuff. So it would have been different. It would have been very, very different. Pretty lucky. But I guess I decided to leave Sydney, or we decided to leave Sydney, and I decided to leave my job and to start my own business. Not because I knew there was a pandemic coming, but I just knew that I needed to have a little bit more control over my life. So I just knew that if I needed to pick up and be remote, or pick up and move, or change my situation, or whatever, I had a gut feeling that I really needed a little bit more autonomy there, because the amount of control that working for someone else has on you is, I found it I really struggled with that. So I think, with hindsight, it was a great move, but I didn't know how much of a great move it would be until the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I find it completely crazy that you made all of these decisions before you knew about COVID, because it wasn't a matter of trying to escape. It was a matter of you just making these decisions because that's what you felt within. But I love the words that you used to describe it. Things like kind of luck, but also divine timing. And I know, I mean, we met in a tiny little island off the side of Bali, right, on a yoga retreat. And so we both know how our minds work on this, but how much of that do you think was due to divine timing and due to luck?
I think it happened when it did because of a whole bunch of reasons. Like, if I look at the timeline of my career, I had to have a certain amount of skills to be able to do what I'm doing now. In the timeline of my relationship, I kind of had to be comfortable enough with my partner to feel like moving to a new city was something that we could do together. And I also had to convince him that this would be a great idea as well. So that took a number of years. So I guess there was a timeline that was there, but I mean, it seems too good to be true to not be some kind of divine timing, doesn't it? So I don't really know. No one really, knows for sure, but it does feel like it all just came together at the right time. So who knows?
Yeah, who does know? And I know, so we've spoken about your house, and then we kind of touched on your job. And so what was the job you were doing full-time in Sydney?
I was working for a charity called the Fred Hollows Foundation, which is one of Australia's biggest charities, most well-known charities, I guess. And they provide eye care treatments and advocacy and stuff for vision impaired people. So I was working in the content team there, doing their search engine optimization program. So making sure that they show up in Google. And it was a big, good, great job. It was everything I'd worked for. And I'd done a degree in international development, and I'd worked for a startup for a few years to kind of like hone those digital marketing skills and stuff. So it was a really great job in theory. And the people I worked with were really awesome as well. But living in the city, I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up in the country in real kind of like lush kind of dairy, green rolling hills, like country vibes. So to then go and study and work in the city for 10 years, I was just like right at the end of my tether.
Yeah, big
So
change.
yeah, so it wasn't so much the job, but the lack of autonomy, working in an office, having to commute, a few hours a day, being surrounded by traffic and noise and cars and stuff. It was all that I more didn't like, and I needed a change from.
Yeah, I completely feel you on that as well. I'm the same in a city. I just feel like it's really contained, and that's a challenge that, I mean, I'm going through being in London right now. But I think something that you were saying to me was that you knew this about yourself. You knew that you didn't like being in the city necessarily. You didn't really like working for someone else, even though there were real good benefits of it and you enjoyed it. The kind of aim was always to kind of move away from that and be kind of more remote, so you could have more freedom of where you worked, but also freedom over the work that you did. And I mean, you were working hard. I mean, when we did meet on that yoga retreat, I met you while you were typing on your laptop. I think I even interrupted you. I was like, "Hey," you're just like,
yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
And I was like, "You're on holiday, Carl." You were working hard towards this goal, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't always know exactly what it would look like, but I guess in the last few years I did know what it would look like, and I was working hard towards it. I didn't think I'd stay in the charity job for that long. But yeah, I kind of knew as well, like when we met in that context, it was me kind of trying to figure out if I could work and travel at the same time, which it's this fluffy idea and this great sounding thing, but it's actually really tough because you're not working, you're not fully working, but you're not fully traveling. You're kind of just doing a bit of both. So you don't get to see all the things you want to see, but you also can't work enough to get everything done. So it was really tough. So I think that also gave me a bit of an indication of, if I'm going to do this business thing, if I'm going to launch a business and do my own thing, I want to do it and give all my attention to it rather than try and travel and work at the same time. And then maybe, design my life around taking holidays and make sure that I'm booking in holidays and things like that, but not trying to do anything too adventurous whilst I'm working, because that's just it just doesn't work. I mean, some people could make it work, but it's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, so talk to me about the business that you have created then, because I know you had loads of other ideas, and you sometimes text me and be like, I've got this great lanyard one. I'm like, tell me. Why did you decide on this one? What is it about? Tell us.
I forgot about that lanyard idea. Yeah.
It was a good idea. It was good.
No, it turned out to be a terrible idea. I don't even remember but I remember it was just like, no, that's a terrible idea. Why did you? And I'd got to the point where I'd thought of the idea, I'd bought the domain, like I'd thought of the branding, like I'd done a business plan, like all in one sitting, like in the middle of the night kind of thing.
I think people that work in like content marketing websites, as soon as they have an idea, they go, right, I'm getting the website done, I'm getting the branding done, I'm doing the business plan now. And I mean, I am trying to think back to what that lanyard idea was, because like we've mentioned it now. I think people are going to be like, what the hell is this lanyard idea? I think it was that you had to that like I wanted some sustainable options for having lanyards at because I'd go to conferences and I'd get a new lanyard at every conference, and I'd be like, well, why can't you return it at the end and then reuse them and have like slot in the branding rather than like paint it on there or whatever. It's just like a sustainable version of lanyard, but I think it exists, and if it doesn't exist, there's probably a reason
it doesn't
No,
exist,
I
you know.
don't think anyone should be thinking like that. I think if something doesn't exist, there is a space. And if it hasn't existed yet and someone else has tried, then they haven't found a solution. I think there is a solution to the lanyard thing, but obviously it's not the idea that you settled
Maybe.
on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I came up with a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
It probably was about 2 or 3 years of different ideas and just brainstorming different business names, different business models, different um, so like what services will I offer, what products will I offer, you know, what's it going to look like. So it wasn't just kind of like I moved to Canberra and I just like launched a business. It was like I'd been kind of designing the business for a few years before it actually launched. And then I think I kind of launched it and then ran it with a limited number of clients for a few months and then just like structured it all together again because I realized the things that weren't working and the things that were working. So
what's the name
yeah.
of the business and what does it do?
Oh, it's called Hiatus Studios, and it's just me working freelance as a content agency. There's nothing unique or special about it, but
Yeah, there is. You are the person working there. You are very unique and special.
Thank you.
These
Thank
are
you.
skills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still figuring out exactly because I create content for adventure brands over here, and then Hiatus Studios is providing content marketing, consulting, and SEO services and brand messaging services, copywriting, that kind of stuff. So it's an agency model over there. But then I also do the content creation with the adventure brands over here. So it's kind of hard to know where it all fits, and I'm still trying to figure all of that out. But so far, most of my clients for Hiatus Studios are just regional 1 or 2 woman small businesses and in the tourism space or in the health and wellness space. So yeah, and I haven't had to do like outreach or anything. I just kind of do my Insta like posts.
Insty. No one calls it Insty here.
No one calls it Insta here either.
Oh.
It's just me. Instagram. Yeah, no, I don't like. That's what's felt so good about this business as well, is that I haven't really had to go out and kind of do outreach and sales and stuff, which is a yucky part of it. I mean, some people like it, but I've never liked that. I've just kind of done what I do, and people who have been interested in getting my help have come to me. So that's felt really nice as well. It's not having to kind of, not having to push anything, just let it happen.
And I want to talk a bit more about not necessarily specific clients if you don't want to speak about them, but before we do go into that, I had 2 questions from Instagram about your kind of business and how you got into it. So one of them was how many years and clients did you work on before you started your own freelance company?
Oh yeah. So my startup job was my first kind of like real-ish job, but in a sense that was me working freelance for a client. So I did that for a few years, and that was probably like part-time. Half the week was spent on that one client. So I would probably, with hindsight, I would say that was my first client. And then when I got my full-time job at the charity, I still had a couple of clients on the side. So kind of side hustle clients that I just connected with through Instagram or through just the adventure community or whatever. So not a lot. I think, and then I think when I kind of soft launched Hiatus Studios, I picked up a couple of oh no, that's right. Before I kind of launched, I did a survey. I put out a survey, and I kind of said, if you fill out this survey, because I wanted more information about my client, my ideal client, and so I put this out and I said, if you fill this out, I'll give you a free XYZ. It was like an audit or something. So in doing that, I attracted a few clients who I ended up doing a bit of work with. So a little bit of kind of free promotion at the beginning was good. That worked out quite well.
Do you think there's a prescriptive number of years or a prescriptive number of clients that people should or must do before they try and venture out on their own?
No, I think it'll be if you try, if you've got a full-time job and you want to do a little side hustle, I think that's good for ironing out some kinks in terms of communication and tools and stuff. So like, how are you going to invoice someone, like all of that kind of the logistics and admin side of it. I think it's good to, just have a little bit under your belt, but like the answer is no. I think you can do it as soon as you want to do it. It's just about, a lot of it is about your confidence levels and, how confident you feel charging the rates that you charge. I think the rate that I was charging the side hustle clients when I was working at the charity, the rate is like a quarter of what I charge now. So, like, it just depends on how confident you are with what you can charge, and doing, having the more clients you have, the more confident you'll become with charging what you want to charge.
And I liked what you were saying in the sense that it just kind of flowed. You were picking clients that you liked, you were working on things that you like to work on, and now it's just flowing. And I think that's probably a message to anyone that's thinking about doing their own thing, that if it's not working, then just find something and be true to who you are, because you are the kind of unique offering. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done. It can be a bit, if you are relying on, I mean, that's the other thing that people always say is that try to kind of get a bit of the experience under your belt when you're not relying financially on it. So like, if you're relying financially on it, then it can be a bit
burden, right?
Trickier. Yeah, because you kind of like, oh, and I need this client. But I think, you've got to, like let things flow to a certain extent and try to kind of trust in your own ability and trust in your own uniqueness. But I've had times where I've had like a person come to me, and I just instantly know that it's just like, no, this is not a good fit. This is not going to work. Yeah. I don't vibe their business. I don't vibe them. And I'll just like, even if I need the work, I'll just like politely and tactfully decline, because there's just no point. And then like inevitably then the next week or something, I'll get a client come to me that's perfect. So it's like, if I had said yes to this one that wasn't so perfect, I wouldn't have had time for the great one. So I think you've just got to try to be really clear on who you are and what you want to do and what kind of people you want to work with and what impact you want to have. And then just try to stay true to that. But like, that's easier said than done when you are relying on the money for your, rent. But as much as you can, I think it's good to try to do it like that.
And that's good advice, I think. The other question that came from Instagram was, what courses are great for content writing? So whether you know of any specific courses, or say if someone wants to just improve their content writing skills, and maybe that does include SEO, making it SEO optimized, what advice do you have to people that want to improve their writing skills?
Like, I've never been trained in writing, so I don't really know. I mean, writing, I think, this is my completely uneducated opinion. Writing is one of those things that is, you develop it through practice. So just writing whatever, whenever, and reading. So just like reading and consuming as much as you can, especially the kind of stuff that you would like to be writing. And then just punching some stuff out and just seeing what happens. And also I think it can be really useful to find a good editor. Because a good editor is someone who really cares and is going to give you some good feedback. and they can really structure your writing so that there's a bit of shape around it, I think is really important. But in terms of studying, I guess any kind of I mean, I did an arts degree at uni. I don't know, is that what it's called over there, an arts degree?
We have art and science degrees, so like Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Sciences.
Like a humanities kind of, mine
Yeah.
was sociology.
I don't know what that would actually come under because I didn't study that at university, but potentially could be the arts.
Yeah. So I just think anything where you're doing long form writing, long form essay writing, and developing ideas, and because I think like the writing style isn't the biggest part of writing, especially if you're a copywriter. I think it's more how you're expressing ideas, how you're communicating ideas is more the point. You need to be able to make sure that you're including everything and that it makes sense. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I mean, I'm a bit like disenchanted with like conventional forms of learning, because I think that I and a lot of people I know did spend a lot of time and money at universities learning things like fun and interesting things, but maybe not necessarily the things that have ended up now, making me money. So I think
completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Completely. I think a lot of it comes down to your experiences and who you meet and what you end up falling into by just the path that you choose to take, the decisions that you choose to make. And I think writing is a skill and I think it can be improved, but also I feel some people, words just make sense to them. And I think you can learn, but also there are some people that just pick it up so quickly. And if you are one of them, just keep writing, just keep improving. But I think there is a difference between content writing and making your content SEO optimized. And I know SEO is like search engine optimization is a massive part of what you do. And you seem like such a wizard. Like I've seen that you put out this whole kind of, I can't really call it a journal. What would you call it? It's like a book? I don't know. What is it? With your SEO tips. You put out like
the guide thing that I did the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is that what you mean? The guide that I put in? Yeah. That's just a list of SEO tasks that exist, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what SEO is, and how broad it actually is. It's all about the content that you're producing, and but then it's also about the technical aspect of your website, and it's also about your PR and your media strategy. So it kind of just encompasses everything. So I wanted to put out something for people to be able to just get a snapshot of what it's all about, because there's not a lot of resources like that.
Yeah.
So that was the point of that. But what was the question about the copywriting?
Making it SEO optimized, as in fitting your content to be just optimized for gaining attention. I think you there's something you just write and that's fine, but if you're writing for a purpose of gaining that Google ranking, there's a difference to that writing style, is there not?
Yeah, well, there's difference in how you structure the information. So you're making sure that you firstly have done some keyword research to make sure that the topic that you're writing about is actually searched for. People are actually searching for it. And then secondly, is it a competitive keyword? Like, are you actually going to be able to rank for it? Or is it just like way too hard? It's one of those keywords that these high level competitors are bidding for, or going for. So so I can't remember what I was saying. I've lost it.
No, I think that answers it in terms of structuring it slightly differently for your SEO. I want to move on to something a little bit more fun, which is the clients that you're working for and your adventures, because it's such a big part of your life, and that's the bit that I love to watch, because it kind of brings out this like really nice sparkling kind of fun energy about you. And I've seen some really nice pictures. I think there was one with a bath. I don't know, where are these? Are these your clients?
I have some clients, some adventure and content creation clients. And like I was saying before, I have the adventure clients, and then I've got the kind of SEO and copywriting and stuff clients. So the one with the bath, there's a company here in Australia called Ripperide, which is it's like an Airbnb booking engine, but for more like adventurous stuff. So yeah, I do content creation for them, and they have a really good content model, marketing model, or I guess they call it a micro influencer model, where they approach kind of like amateur kind of photographers to go out and have an adventure in their accommodation properties and write a story about it and take some nice photos and kind of make it all vibey with, people in the photos, rather than a lot of the property listings that you see is just like this beautiful kind of like picture of a bed or whatever, but you don't actually get the feeling that you could be there. So they try to do that. So that's the Bath one. We went to just a beautiful like equestrian farm, which was a few hours away from here, and it was built in a shipping container.
Amazing.
So which is like a bit of a trend. I don't know if it's a trend over there, but
I've heard about these trends.
Yeah, it's quite a big thing, like the whole tiny house thing, but then doing it in a shipping container. So yeah, but it was fully luxe, and had this bathtub and this beautiful view, and but we've done maybe 4 or 5 content trips with them, and we've been to a beautiful tiny house down south in the mountains, and coastal kind of cottage, and just like it's just a nice little excuse to go on a little holiday. I mean, it does feel like work when you're there, because you do have to make sure you get some good photos and like remember some of the details so you can write it down. But I wouldn't really call that a client. That's more just like a fun thing that I do.
When you create content and post it, it's a mix. But I asked you before, I said, I really want to be transported. I want to feel transported. I want you to show us some of your experiences, your adventures, and some of the places that you visited. And we were speaking about going through your Instagram. Can you show us some of your trips or your favorite ones?
Yeah, well, one that I've posted about a lot recently, which if anyone listening to this actually does follow me, they'll be like, oh, shut up about it already. But I'm always posting about the Larapinta Trail, which is this trail out in the desert in, let me show you this photo. Out in the Northern Territory. Oh, can we see it?
Yeah, I can see it, and I'll try and put it over the top as well. But for anyone that can't see it, do you want to explain what is in the photo?
Yeah, it's the Larapinta Trail, and it's out in the Northern Territory of Australia, full desert country, but with all these high ridges. So there's a lot of climbing, a lot of mountainous, rocky walking, but it's we did it in 16 days hiking, fully supported hiking. So you've got everything you need on your back to live. And it was 30 something, like 32 degrees the first few days, and still pretty hot the rest of it. So, and then I don't know if you can see, but this one is pretty good. Shows how fly covered it was.
So I love your fly stories, because I haven't been to Australia. It's a sore topic because I was meant to be there this year, but your trails, what is with the flies?
Yeah, that's not normal. It had been a drought for like a year prior, or longer than a year prior, when we got there. And so the flies were just crazy. But out in the desert where there's any kind of like cattle nearby, I think that's why. But it like, everyone who sees that photo, they're just like, I've never seen, you see their faces and they're just like, no, I cannot handle that. But like, I didn't really, like, I hate spiders. I couldn't deal with lots of spiders, but I didn't really mind. Like, I mean, they were annoying because you had to wear a net over your head, and you couldn't like eat without, you had to like put your spoon under the net and stuff.
Mean, for anyone that's listening on Spotify that hasn't been able to see the picture, I mean, it's available on your Instagram anyway, which we'll say at the end, but Ellie's literally sat on the floor and she is covered, like her whole back might as well just be, I don't know, an outfit. It's just flies, just flies. And she's got this like net over her face and all of this, which is incredible. But if you're trekking in Australia, so you've spoken about, how do you say it?
Larapinta,
Larapinta Trail. What other kind of trails would you recommend for people if they were going
to Australia walking? So there's like the main, I actually haven't done a lot of multi-days in Australia. Most of my multi-days have been overseas, but the main one that people go to is down in Tasmania, called the Overland Track. And it's got some huts, and I maybe did that 10 or more, no longer, maybe 15 years ago or so. And it's beautiful, really beautiful part of the country down in Tasmania and Cradle Mountain area. So that's like a good one to start with. But the Larapinta is beautiful. There's a beautiful trail up on Hinchinbrook Island called the Thorsbourne Trail. There's on the west coast. There's you could walk forever. There's just so many places to walk. But I haven't really done a lot in Australia because most of my traveling, like epic traveling, was overseas, I guess, when I was younger.
Where overseas were they?
Nepal. I went and did the Annapurna circuit in Nepal, and then I was in Tanzania. I did Kilimanjaro and New Zealand a few times. There's a really nice walk down on Stewart Island, which is the island that's below the South Island of New Zealand, and there's like a 12-day circuit down there, really remote and really tough. I did that with my dad. So yeah, different ones like that. But there's always more to do.
Oh, of course there are. I mean, in Australia, one of the reasons why I never wanted to go when I was a child was because I always got told there were so many dangerous animals. And I think that is the perception of so many people, especially in the UK. We're just told it's literally where all the dangerous animals live. And I mean, when I went to Borneo, there were also these really dangerous animals and some crazy ones, like a wasp that can paralyze you for like 8 hours. Crazy. Ooh, a viper that can kill you in 30 minutes. But in Australia, is it right to have these perceptions of it being really dangerous?
Yes, because no, yes, in the sense that like they exist and they are dangerous in terms of snakes and spiders, but no, in the sense that like it's very rare for you to see them, and it's very rare for you to be actually bitten by them. So yeah, I mean, I've done a fair amount of hiking, and I grew up in the country and stuff, and it's not often that, I mean, maybe I'm just not observant or something, but it's not often that I would see a snake. Like my dad says he sees them all the time, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I just don't look, but it's not super, super, super common to be seeing them. And if you are seeing them, like Dad always taught us to, when we're walking outside or when we're near long grass or when it's hot or, snake weather, to just be stomping, like just stomp everywhere you go, just so that they don't, they get scared of you. They're just like, any kind of animal, they just get scared of you. And then with spiders, you just kind of like, you always just check your shoes and just make sure that there's nothing in your shoes.
What about
but like the actual
though?
Wait, what are the black
widows? What are they? Did you just say what are they? Are you Australian?
No, I don't really know what's what. Like we've got the funnel web.
Ones.
We've got the funnel web, which is like the bad one, like the really
know
bad
about
one.
That one. I only know about the black widow, and obviously the huntsmen are massive, but they're like friendly apparently. What's this funnel?
Well, they're the ones I'm scared of.
What, huntsmen?
Yeah, because when I was young, like I just, when you've just got like traumatic childhood memories. I remember one time waking up, because we were right in the country where I grew up, and I remember actually not one time, like a few times, I woke up and there'd be like a huntsman like right there on the wall next to me. Or I remember one time I woke up and there was I was sleeping, cuddling my cat, and I woke up and my cat was like attacking a huntsman on my pillow next to my head. So...
Oh my God, I literally cannot deal. I mean, when I was having my breakfast this morning, there was a spider and it was big. And when I say big, I mean that big.
Yeah.
And it was like abseiling, and I was like, "That no, you know what? I can't deal with that." But no, go on, show me how big these huntsmans are.
Oh, they're about that big.
No, they're not. They're bigger than that.
I mean,
I swear they're like this big.
No, huntsmen.
Yeah, they're this big. They're like bigger than my head. They are, right?
No, they're about, I reckon if you got a big one, it'd be about the size of your hand.
Oh my God, horrendous. And I'm surprised that you don't know what a black widow is. Surely you know what a black widow is.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm just like not very knowledgeable about stuff.
Oh my
Stuff goes
God.
in one ear and out the other, and I just prefer not to know.
It must mean that it can't be as dangerous as what we've been told it is then.
Black spiders, black, dark, hairy spiders, I have a big issue with, so I just don't want to know.
Well, you know what? I thought that was going to be a lovely moment where we could transport ourselves to the lovely Australia, and then we spoke about everything that could kill you. So, you know, maybe I'll just stay in cold, freezing cold London just for a little bit longer. But hopefully that has transported people away from our third lockdown into some different kind of land. Ellie, how can people connect with you if they want to?
Oh, probably best just on Insta, I'd say. On Instagram. My name on Instagram is Ellie Lou here. So that's probably just the best place. Or you can check out hiatusstudios.co, studios with an S. Yeah.
Amazing. Are you doing anything? So I know you launched all your SEO stuff. Are you doing anything else this year that you want people to know about?
Oh, I'm launching a podcast.
Amazing. What about?
Digital marketing, but mostly content marketing and SEO. But I'm trying to kind of move my messaging, or, you know, start teaching more about the possibilities of content, using content in your business, and kind of move away from some of the SEO kind of stuff, because I think people get a bit freaked out by it and they think it's technical and blah, blah, blah. But my, you know, passion and what I've done in past jobs and with clients and stuff has been, you know, setting up new content programs and making sure that people can have consistent content production. So I'm trying to kind of do more stuff around that. So we'll talk about that in the podcast. But then I'm also doing like a 7-day course as well that I've been producing. So that'll be just like a quick short course, but we'll kind of like get people ready to produce content in their businesses. But yeah, they're the things that I'm focusing on this year, but just see whatever else comes up.
Any adventures planned?
Oh, we just had one recently, a paid partnership one, so they don't happen that often. But in terms of like holidays, not really, because I feel like I haven't really wanted to plan anything big because no one really knows what's happening. So I definitely don't want to leave. I could go to New South Wales, which is the border that is next to us, and kind of like stay close by and, you know, probably go down south and go skiing when that opens up. But nothing big planned. I don't really, that's the way, I think that's one of the big changes that's happened, is just keep it small and just like take it a little bit, you know, day by day or week by week, rather than, you know, far in advance booking and stuff like that.
I think that's the same for a lot of people everywhere around the world right now. Well, thank you for sharing your hour with us, and thank you for telling us about COVID and how your life has changed. I think it's been really interesting. Thank you for sharing all the information with us.
No worries.
And
My pleasure.
hopefully I'll see you in person at some point in Australia.
Oh, yes, hopefully. Who knows when, but it'll happen.